Well, good morning, everyone. Almost to the weekend here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Jane Monreal. We thank you for joining us this morning for 2 hours of live coverage, including a headline that we are going to want to talk about, particularly tomorrow. But looking ahead, we want to be weather impact alert because of a potential for flash flooding. Also want to talk to you about the NTSB hearing, day number 2, happening today in where investigators are looking into that mid-air collision from January 6 months ago, killing 67 people. And then later this afternoon, we are expecting to hear from RNC Chair giving his formal announcement to put his hat in for the Senate seat for North Carolina. Our Julie Kay will be covering that announcement and event from Gastonia later this afternoon. But first, we do want to talk to you about the weather because although we're not weather impact alert today, Chris Mulcahy, it is certainly, again, a very hot day. And again, looking forward to tomorrow. I don't know if we're looking forward to it, but we definitely need to keep the weather impact alertness in mind going into the weekend.
You know, I'm looking forward to it.
All right.
I look forward to all types of weather.
That's true.
I have a firm belief that there's no bad type of weather, just bad preparation for it. So how you prepare for it, that makes all the difference. By the way, just letting you know, just a little PSA, I'm having trouble turning my neck to the left because I slept weird and my back has the
Oh
thing.
my gosh.
Has anyone ever happened to that?
Jane
Yes.
just said this morning she's gotten a little back.
Really? It happens to you too?
Oh, my neck always gets tweaked out, but
Same.
I was just complaining that my back is really tweaked. I do see a chiropractor every.
Okay, yeah, because it's
Once
one
a week.
spot, and so if I'm kind of like
Yep.
all of a sudden I was like, I'm okay.
Okay.
That's okay. We'll
Perfectly
understand.
normal.
Just move your whole body.
All right, so now that we got that out of
All
the
right,
way.
thank you for that
Yeah,
qualifier.
of course. I want you to know how we're also feeling.
Right.
Aches and pains, not
Yeah.
just the weather. Okay, so let's get to our day planner. And we like to show this fun graphic from time to time because it shows the other things that are going on today. It's not just July 31st, the end of the month. It's also National Avocado Day. Grab some toast, everybody. National Chili Dog Day. Look at I'm planning out your meals. Not the
do
third
love chili
one.
dog.
National Intern Day. So shout out to Lily.
Yes,
So we got Lily here. Let's
What's
bring
up,
up that
Lily?
camera again.
Who are you
Lily.
representing?
Myself?
I'm sorry, your school.
Oh, UGA.
Oh, UGA.
Go
dogs.
Oh,
Go
there we
dogs.
go. I saw on the Today Show all their interns.
Aw.
They were representing all their
All their
schools. They had their
schools.
shirts and stuff.
Cute.
I don't think there was one from North Carolina, Chapel Hill,
Cool.
representing.
Well-
and then someone from University of Miami was also
Well,
representing.
yeah,
I'm
you
also
gotta
representing WCNC, so
That's right.
go intern day.
She has
Like
she
a
has
pro.
the branding
Like a
already.
pro.
She's got it. All right. Anyway, thanks for that sidebar.
Well, that was a plus, right? Okay. Our Charlotte top 5 list, I've shown you this for the better part of a half month once I realized, wow, July is trending up there. Well, number 2, and with highs still reaching the lower to the mid-90s today and our lows only dropping down to about the mid-70s, we have no problem disappearing from that spot. And then temperatures eventually are going to head to the cooler direction, where the beginning of August is bananas. It actually feels more like September compared to the actual month of August, and I'm not complaining, trust me. Our July ranks, we can actually break it down with a little extra detail. We have the warmest set of lows we've had in July history over the last 146 years of record keeping here in Charlotte. The second overall average, as I just showed you, but also the third hottest. We're averaging a high of 95 degrees, 94.8. Of course, I rounded up. That's insane. And we didn't quite beat out 1986 and 1993, but boy, has this been a historic month. I'm happy that we finally get a well-deserved cool down. The big story, as Jane was talking about off the top, was a low chance for flash flooding today, but a weather alert day tomorrow. That is a medium threshold. This is a classic setup. we have enhanced moisture, tropical air, a front rolls in, and days of rain before. These big flooding events don't just happen. They're usually a precursor. And again, I hate using this as an example just because it's such a tragic event, but Helene was not just Helene. It was the days before that primed Helene to push things over the edge. We haven't seen that type of rain before this, but sometimes you need the days of rain beforehand to prime the soil to elevate your flood threat. And that's exactly what we see here on a much lesser scenario. Our storm impacts are also a little elevated as far as our severe threat. We have a chance for not only flash flood warnings, but also severe thunderstorm warnings, or at least some special weather statements that are going to say, hey, you have wind gusts up to 30 to 50 miles per hour, just below severe criteria. There's an outside chance for hail, but I think this is pretty much low to none. But the lightning is going to be quite active and quite loud. Who's been hearing some loud thunder as of recently? A lot of that loud thunder?
Not yesterday. Oh, wait, no, yesterday afternoon I did hear
I don't
some.
think I heard any of it.
No, we had zero at my house. Yeah, it depends where you are. But thank you for backing me up here. If you didn't, I was going to feel very alone. Or I was going to name drop my director, Rusty. But we had such loud thunder that people were actually writing in saying, wow, that like shook my windows. The reason why you're seeing this is because we're creating a sound chamber. It's specifically during the evening and the overnight hours that all the heat that we have at the surface, it rises up and it literally creates almost a ceiling. So when you have that big time sound, it's able to reverberate. So it's much louder. It would be like, hey, you could let off a foghorn outside or you could let it off in a smaller space. It's going to be much, much louder in the smaller confined space. Picture it like that scenario for this. But also, if you're in almost like a tunnel or a tube, sound can echo a lot longer. So whenever you hear that big rolling thunder where it seems like it goes on for a minute or two, that is because of an environment like this. And especially you hear that during the evening, that thunder, that's literally the sound waves are bouncing for miles because we're insulated by that inversion. Just letting you know that's going to be a possibility over the next couple of days and next couple of nights. Flash flood risks. This is the weather alert criteria that we're talking about. It really starts after 2 to 8 to 9 is where most of the heavy rain is going to fall, but heavy downpours, some prime soils will lead to a flash flood setup. So what are you going to do? Stay weather alert. We'll keep you updated, the whole weather team, and also here on WCNC Plus is a great resource. So here's the deal. This is why we're all seeing this go down. A cold front's going to push through the area, and we're going to actually have a little coming of this little low that's going to ramp up our rain chances heading into your Friday, and it's also shifting the wind. So Saturday is much cooler because the past front, the rain cooled air, it's called cold air damming, and that's going to lead to the coolest weekend we've had since late May. Late May, we were in the upper 70s, but we haven't had one around 80 degrees since then. So that really puts it in perspective. And also last weekend, boy, was that a difference. We were 101, 102. Now we're 80 and 81. Here's a complicated graphic as far as meteorology is concerned, but I'm going to simplify it for you. So what you're looking at is the atmospheric moisture. This is actually known as precipitable water. Whenever you have values over 2 inches, and that's like if you took the entire column of the atmosphere and squished it out like you're squeezing an orange, all the juice that you have left over, this would be like all the water that you have left over. The highest this value goes is to about 3 to 3.2, and that shows how saturated, how much water can actually come from a single storm. Now, oftentimes there's multiple sections of the storm, multiple layers of the atmosphere, and that's why you can pick up well over 3 inches in an hour. But notice how this line gradually turns down. That's going to make it feel a lot more comfortable, but it's also going to take away a lot of our storm fuel. But my main point here is we're in that red zone today and tomorrow. So that's also going to elevate that any thunderstorm that we have is going to allow for some heavier downpours, some torrential rain, which is upping our chances for flash flooding. But once that front dips down to the south, and once those water values get lower, we're talking about near no problematic, comfortable air, y'all. Like, this is going to feel really nice. So it's not only are we taking a break from the 90s, you actually almost have like a more comfortable setup in fall weather, where it's more typical to have the lower 80s in September. That's literally the climatological highs by the mid to later part of the month, compared to what you see for the first days of August. So a complete flipping of the script. We were 10 degrees above normal. Now we're 10 degrees below normal. As far as the rainfall goes, now this map is really busy. Looks like a box of crayons melted here, and there's a bunch of numbers that are in there as well, but I'm plain and simple telling you that there's a chance of 1 to 3 inches of rain over the next 2 days, and some areas could even see as much as 3 to 5. It just depends on where multiple thunderstorms set up, because some areas, as we were just mentioning, somebody heard thunder, some didn't hear thunder at all. Well, some have been seeing a thunderstorm each and every day. Those areas that see more storms today and tomorrow are likely going to be under the gun as far as any flooding is concerned. So let's go through your Futurecast before I take up any more of your time. We are looking at our best chance for an isolated storm to pop up anywhere between about 11 and 1. We said this yesterday as well, but it depends where you are. Some of us will see over an inch of rain. Some of us will see nothing at all. And then there's, of course, everyone else in between. We already saw a good saturation this morning, but we're coming a lot more scattered mid to late afternoon. This will continue until about the middle part of the evening. We'll hit a break. Still going to be a muggy overnight, but then just like what we had last night, clusters of storms could come together, form their own system, and you can have more light to moderate rain and even some thunderstorms to start off tomorrow morning. We're seeing indications here. Now watch the slow movement that we see here by the early to mid-afternoon. Notice how a little line starts to form. When you have these lines of thunderstorms that are very slow moving, that's where you could have that potential. And by 8 o'clock, we're still seeing some very heavy rain across the area. It eventually starts to die out, and then we just have some leftover light rain into the early morning hours on Saturday. Those clouds will be thick. The evaporation of rain condenses into some fog, so we don't really see the sunshine until late day, or if at all, for your Saturday. That's also why we're trending a little bit on the cooler side. 80 degrees on Saturday, more sunshine on Sunday. So Sunday's my pick of the weekend. And then we're still rocking the lower 80s Monday and Tuesday. More rain chances return on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then eventually we're going to start to warm back up. I didn't mean to bring this up again, but it's here.
Why not? We like chili
You know what?
dogs.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
We like Lily.
I like,
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
We like chili and lily, right?
Right.
Chili and Lily.
But
all good.
I will move this way. The next time that we're going to be at a 90-degree high, it looks like it's going to be next Friday into Saturday. So this is very short-lived. So as I always say, my favorite Latin saying, carpe diem, seize the day.
Seize the day, seize the fall. Might need to bring out a sweatshirt even.
For 80 degrees?
In the evening.
Ha 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 ha! Hold on.
Oh, hold up.
Oh, contraire, mon frere.
Oh.
Because look at the
Pardonnez-moi.
lows. Maybe you are talking about sweatshirt, but look at this. 65.
That's borderline sweatshirt weather
65
for me.
for some people. I see people wearing heavy pants.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
It
Yeah,
depends,
stay
it
right
depends
here.
on the 65.
I'm a Floridian, so
Yeah, it depends on the 65. Yeah, sometimes.
yeah.
Yeah.
When it's a cool,
Oh, yeah.
crisp 65 sweatshirt.
I have my friend Blake that moved here from Florida, and it's so funny because we'll go out and it'll be in the 60s, and he's like wearing thermals, and I'm like, "What are you doing? What is happening?" But
I
no.
know.
There will be some of you. But yeah, the mid 60s, trust me, especially with that drier air, it will feel cool. I think you can get by without a sweatshirt, but we're borderline. And it's crazy that we're saying that, especially after going through stretches of 100-degree days.
Layers.
Layers.
Layers, Lily. All right, Lily. Happy intern day.
Happy
Yeah, happy
intern
intern
day.
Hopefully you had a wonderful experience here at WCNC.
No, just about a week left.
Oh no.
Wow.
Week.
All right.
1 week.
We'll get her cake, and then she'll move on. She's our future.
She's the future.
All right. And so is Chris Mulcahy. He's
Oh.
going to be with us for a long time.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't plan on leaving.
All right.
You're raising the future.
Yes,
Indeed.
that's right.
That's
There
right.
we go. All right. Chris, Lily, Carlene, you guys all rock.
Thank you. You rock as
Jane.
well.
Yeah.
Also
Thank
part of
you.
the rock club.
That's
Yeah.
right.
All right, so we'll bring it back out here on the solo shot. 9:15, just about here on a Thursday morning. We are also keeping an eye, this is very exciting, on SpaceX Crew launch. This is the Crew 11 at Kennedy Space Center, looking live right now at Cape Canaveral. Their pre-coverage is happening right now. All the pre-launch protocol processes. It takes a couple of hours, and all of the activities there. So they always get good spectators. It doesn't get old. The launch scheduled though for 12:09. It should happen right on time. Otherwise, it's considered it's a no-go. If it doesn't happen at 12:09, it's not going to happen today. And then we will look forward to a post-launch news conference. Maybe we'll be able to catch a little bit of that at 1:30 here on
Hopefully, yeah.
WCNC Plus.
For sure.
All right. So with that, we are also following, of course, like I said, we are following the NTSB hearing day number 2. This is continuing a 3-day investigative hearing into the deadly January 29th collision of that Black Hawk helicopter with an American Airlines passenger based out of Charlotte. This happened above Washington Reagan National. So today's agenda is a full one. Let's go ahead and listen in here on Live Impact News on WCNC+.
This in person, you can scan the QR code on the hearing agenda. On the investigation page, you will find the link to the public docket on the right-hand side, just below the map. A transcript of the testimony taken during the hearing will be prepared and entered into the docket as soon as possible. In addition, Mr. Baranovsky will keep a list of any documents admitted during the hearing that are not currently exhibits in the NTSB public docket. These documents will be submitted after the hearing and entered in the docket. As a reminder, if a party to the hearing has a new exhibit to propose in accordance with 9 CFR section 845.9, it will not be admitted unless the chairwoman determines that good cause has been shown. Chairwoman Hamady, that concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Bauer. We're ready to begin panel 3. Will you please go over the panel topics and introduce the NTSB technical panel and witnesses?
Chairwoman Hamady, panel 3 is on training, guidance, and procedures applicable to DCA air traffic control. The panel will address DCA ATCT facility type, services, radar, visual, and expectations. Training and proficiency of controllers, from initial training of all controllers through individual training and certification at DCA ATCT. Initial classroom, certification, simulation, refresher, recurrent, in compliance with the National Training Initiative and applicable documentation. Training, guidance, and procedures applicable to DCA air traffic control. Resource management, staffing within the tower and combined positions. Separation standards, radar, visual, instrument flight rules, or IFR, visual flight rules, or VFR, and their application. Conflict alerting. An explanation, controller response expectations, nuisance alert prevalence, both in general across the National Airspace System, or the NAS, as well as specific to DCA, ATCT, and this accident. System safety, logic, and alerting, including design, adaptation, and human factors issues such as controller response. Night vision goggles, or aided pilot, the impact to air traffic control. Helicopter holding within the DCA airspace. Traffic flow management, including airport arrival rate, miles and trail, slot program, time-based flow management, and hourly rate fluctuations. The use of circling to runway 33 for offloading, traffic flow, and risk mitigation. ADSB in and out, and the impact to air traffic control operations, and safety risk management panels. The NTSB technical panel, starting down on my right, is composed of Mr. Brian Soper, lead aviation accident investigator for air traffic control. Ms. Sarah Lewis, an aviation accident investigator for air traffic control. Dr. Catherine Wilson, senior human performance investigator. And Captain Van McKinney, aerospace engineer for helicopters. Witnesses for panel 3 are composed of the following individuals. From my left, nearest the board members. In the front row, we have Mr. Nick Fuller, the Acting Deputy Chief Operating Officer with the Air Traffic Organization of the Federal Aviation Administration. Ms. Mandy Chendi, Traffic Management Officer with the Washington District for the Federal Aviation Administration. Mr. Brian Lehman, Air Traffic Manager for the Potomac Consolidated TRACON with the Federal Aviation Administration. Mr. Clark Allen was the Operations Manager of the DCA ATCT at the time of the accident with the Federal Aviation Administration. Mr. James Jarvis, an Air Traffic Control Specialist, formerly with the FAA Eastern Service Air Quality Control Group with LEDOS. Dr. Kenneth Allendorfer, Manager of Human Systems Integration Branch with the Federal Aviation Administration. In the second row, from left to right, we have Mr. Rick Dressler, Aviation Site Manager for MedStar Transport with Metro Aviation Incorporated. Mr. Eric Silverman, an Air Traffic Control and Airfield Operations.
Here at 9:22, we're going to switch gears for a moment right now and take this moment to discuss a lung disease that is affecting tens of thousands of Americans, yet most people have never heard of it. Non-tuberculous mycobacteria, or NTM lung disease, a progressive condition that's often mistaken for asthma, COPD, even bronchitis. Amy Lightman, president of NTM Info and Research, a national nonprofit dedicated to supporting patients with this condition, joining us live here on the Zoom right now. Amy, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
And Amy, let's start with the basics. What exactly is NTM disease? Why should our viewers know about it?
So NTM, or non-tuberculous mycobacterial disease, it's a lung disease that affects over 200,000 Americans every year, and it's growing at 8% a year in the U.S. So it's a growing health issue. There are a lot of different factors that make somebody vulnerable to it, so it's important for people to know about it. It's often misdiagnosed, so it's important for people to know the symptoms of it and to know, when should they start asking about getting tested for it. Those are the most important things, really. NTMs are, environmental pathogens. We're surrounded by them. They're in the soil and the water. Most people aren't affected, but if you have an underlying vulnerability, you can get sick with it.
Why is this disease flying under the radar, and what's driving the increase?
So I think it's flying under the radar a lot because, number one, it is mistaken for other things, and number two, there was this perception previously that it really was pretty rare. The thing is, when you look for it, you're going to find it, especially when the symptoms match. Why is it on the increase? There's a number of factors. We have an aging population. As we age, so do our immune systems. There's more use of immune suppressive drugs to treat conditions that are, immune dysregulated, like rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis, et cetera. They're great treatments for, other diseases that cause a lot of suffering, but they do, suppress the immune system. And anything that suppresses the immune system is going to have an effect and make somebody more vulnerable to an infection like this.
So what are some of the warning signs, and where do you know that it's not asthma or just a cold?
So you're going to know if it's not asthma or just a cold if it keeps coming back. You're going to, if you're getting treatment and it's not responding to treatment. And the most common symptoms are fatigue, cough, and shortness of breath. People also get night sweats, low-grade fevers. They could lose weight. That persistent cough is one of the more, hallmark symptoms, along with the fatigue. Those are the key symptoms that get reported most often by patients.
What do you suggest on advocating for proper testing, and what is the typical journey a patient would expect to go through?
So, I mean, I think a typical journey is going to start with, probably, with these symptoms showing up and thinking it's something else. When it doesn't respond to treatment, that's when you say to your doctor, something else is going on because this isn't working. That's, really when you ask, can we do a CT of my lungs and see what's going on in there? If you have somebody who's coughing up sputum, if they're bringing mucus out of their lungs, that mucus needs to be analyzed. It needs to be looked at a lab to see what's in it, what grows out from it. There are specialized labs that look for specifically for NTM, and they can tell you which species of NTM is growing. And that's really important as well because there are different treatment protocols. But it's, the tests aren't that complicated. You just have to think to ask for it. And so really it's a matter of being aware of, okay, the treatments I'm on aren't working. What's next?
And what kind of damage, if left untreated, can people experience?
So it just causes more lung scarring, and that makes breathing harder. Your oxygen's going to suffer for it because you're going to have less functional lung tissue. We have a saying that time is tissue. So, the sooner you get diagnosed, the better it is.
All right. World NTM Day is August 4th. What are you hoping to get your message out to, or what are you hoping to accomplish then?
So we really want to help boost the message about, the symptoms, about earlier diagnosis, about proper treatment, about the importance of patient support as well. Our organization offers a robust patient support network, so we are here to help patients. There's a lot of educational materials available. If you go to worldntmday.org, there are webinars that we're hosting that you can sign up for free. There's links to all kinds of information. There's also links to different social media, toolkits and social media posts that you can help us by, posting them and boosting the message for us.
All right. Amy Lightman, President of NTM Info and Research. Thanks for joining us this morning. Great information and a message for patients to look at themselves and advocate for good health. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Here at 9:27, as we come up on 9:30 on this Thursday morning, you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. So again, we are monitoring things at Cape Canaveral. An exciting day for SpaceX launch, SpaceX Crew 11 that should launch at 12:09. So keeping an eye on the launch pad there. We'll monitor things there as yes, we are hours away from SpaceX Launch 11 as they are planning to go to the International Space Station. Back to the NTSB board meeting. This is day 2 of a hearing investigating that mid-air crash that happened in January. As we continue to monitor things live here, let's listen in on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
Flybys, for those that might not be aware, what do you mean when you say flybys?
Flybys, we have those for special events, most recently the 4th of July events that transpired, as well as there are flybys at Arlington National Cemetery for fallen soldiers.
Okay, great. Thank you. And do you provide radar services at this facility?
We do.
Okay. And in this facility, the tower is equipped with control tower radar displays that are there for the use in controllers and providing services. Can you explain to us the primary use of these displays and how they are to be used by air traffic controllers to include their benefits as well as the limitations of their use?
Yeah, so our certified tower radar display has a map of the general area, the adjacent facilities, and prominent landmarks. It helps with situational awareness and workload. It is incorporated in what air traffic controllers have as part of their scan. They'll scan that and grab information from it. They'll scan, look out the window. They'll utilize their strips. We have the ASD, the Airport Surface Detection Equipment. It is one tool that comprises the overall scan and how we operate the facility.
Thank you. And one last one in this area, if you could explain for us the positions that you staff in this tower, or that this tower staffs for operating services in a normal configuration. If you could just kind of step us through what those positions are and basically their function in the tower.
Yep. So we'll start with local control. So they are operating the runways, clearing folks to land, clearing them to take off. There is assistant local control. They're an extra set of eyes for the local controller. They help provide sequencing for the departures and the arrivals, and they coordinate with the adjacent facilities or adjacent positions within the tower cab. The ground controller, like I said earlier, operates all the aircraft on the ground as well as provides ramp control for the airfield. There's the helicopter position that controls the helicopters in the Class Bravo airspace as well as the Delegated Security Services airspace. We have a clearance delivery flight data position that maintains the weather, assists with traffic management duties, as well as amending and providing clearances for IFR aircraft. Traffic management unit, they, as it says in the title, they assist with anything traffic management related, whether it's getting release times for departures, initiating programs for DCA, and coordinating things of that nature. And then there would be a supervisor or controller in charge that would oversee the entire operation and provide oversight.
What is the basic difference between a supervisor or a controller in charge?
Supervisor would be a management personnel that is overseeing the operation. If one is not available, a controller can be placed as controller in charge to fill that position.
I assume there's a qualification process to be a controller in charge. It's not just any controller could do that duty, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to shift into some separation standards and use of visual separation, which has been a hot topic through this entire investigation. I just want to remind, as we do ask these questions, I know a lot has went on. The FAA has done a lot to mitigate stuff in this airspace already, so there have been things implemented since the time of the accident. But we would like everybody to frame their responses as on the day of the event, what was in place on the day of that event. So the policies, the way things were done, the SOP, everything like that, we want it framed in that because we're still here trying to figure all of that out. Mr. Allen, or I'm sorry, Mr. Fuller, you gave a pretty good definition of this yesterday, so I'd like to ask you to do this for us again and remind us. We've heard a lot about visual separation in this event. Could you briefly explain what visual separation is, how it is applied, and the difference between pilot applied and tower applied visual separation for air traffic?
In Class B airspace, controllers are required to maintain 1.5 miles or 500 feet between fixed-wing aircraft over 19,500 pounds and VFR helicopters. Visual separation is a means by which separation responsibility can be transferred to the pilot after they report traffic in sight. Visual separation, you must ensure that you have Class B separation before and after the application of visual separation, and that's for pilot-applied visual separation. If it were tower-applied visual separation, the tower is still maintaining responsibility for separating the aircraft by visually observing them and providing directions to ensure they don't conflict. On the night of the accident, they were not using tower-applied visual separation. They were using pilot-applied visual separation. Again, the requirement is for the air traffic controller to have Class B separation before and after the application of visual separation.
Okay. And sorry, I lost my place there. Mr. Allen, how prevalent was the use of visual separation at DCA Airport Traffic Control Tower? Could you provide us some of the benefits and limitations to using visual separation?
Visual separation was used on a daily basis between the helicopter operators and the commercial traffic departing and landing at DCA. Visual separation was paramount to making the operation work efficiently for the amount of volume and complexity that the airspace has.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I wanted to bounce right back to Mr. Fuller just 1 second on the visual separation. On pilot-applied visual separation, you mentioned that that it puts the onus of separation on the pilot at that time to maintain the visual separation. Does it relieve the controller of their responsibility to ensure separation?
So I will tell you that the responsibility at that point is on the pilot to separate themselves from the other aircraft, and that means to maneuver as necessary to avoid a collision. Now, as an air traffic control professional, we are always going to do the extra mile. If we see a conflict, even if we are applying visual separation, we will still provide additional traffic information and make sure that that pilot understands that they still have that responsibility. I believe in the night of the accident, you heard the pilot controller reach out and provide an additional instruction to the PAT 25 helicopter to ensure they had traffic in sight and they verifying they were still maintaining visual separation. It's the pilot's responsibility, but air traffic controllers will go the extra mile to make sure that we're providing information as necessary.
Okay, thank you. And back to you, Mr. Allen. Was it your experience that the workforce had a clear understanding of the limitations as much as the benefits derived? Do you feel that the operators had a clear understanding of these as well from your experience working there?
From my experience, the controller workforce was well versed in utilizing visual separation, and the helicopter users were very aware of visual separation and what it entailed.
Okay. And Mr. Jarvis, for you, I know that you're on this panel. You conducted compliance verifications as part of the Eastern Service Area Quality Control Group at DCA. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And what time frame was that again? From when to when did you do that at DCA?
From when did I?
What year to what year were you? Have you done that service at DCA?
At DCA,
yeah.
From about 2017 till July of 2023.
Okay, so it wasn't that far in the past. When you were there during the compliance verifications that you did do, was visual separation or controllers' application of visual separation or their understanding of it ever a question or a deficiency through those ECVs that you can recall?
Yes.
In what way? Could you expound on that a little bit?
Approximately 2016 to 2017, we conducted an evaluation, and although we did not identify non-compliance, there were situations in which it did not appear the scan was going in the direction that we felt it should have gone. Again, we did not identify non-compliance. We did was we left the facility with a comment, a concern, and from there they took care of that.
So they took care of. So you were able to follow up with that they provided some sort of mitigation or training to that comment or what you observed while you were there.
Based on data that they had in their facility internal verification system, they followed up with visual separation, and it looked like they took care of it in that formality.
Okay. Mr. Allen, something that our team found unique when we were listening to audio and observing operations at DC Airport Traffic Control Tower was the pilots almost reflexively requesting pilot-applied visual separation immediately upon receiving an initial traffic advisory or check-in. Do you have a sense of why that is here? Was that something that they encouraged, or was it something that air traffic control offered to them at some point? It struck us as a little odd. I think all of us did, because in most other places I've been, it doesn't quite happen that way. It's usually given traffic, and then they may actually ask the pilot to apply visual separation. Kind of goes.
So with the way the airspace is constructed with the prohibited areas, the way the helicopter route structure and the airfield with the approaches and departures, the way it is all integrated, like I said in your previous question, that visual separation is paramount in order to expedite the flow of all traffic, whether it's the fixed-wing traffic or the helicopter traffic. So in my opinion, any helicopter operator that has been in the area for a length of time understands how the operation works and how it needs to work in order to efficiently move the aircraft. But I would defer to the gentlemen behind me that are the helicopter operators for their opinion.
That's great, and that's where I was going next. Mr. Van Vechten, would you like to speak to that, please?
Yes, sir. With night vision goggles on from Cabin John, I can visually see aircraft landing and departing runway 9 lining up at Wilson Bridge. So it is common practice to identify the aircraft and then call visual separation from a long distance away. As we descend, it can become challenging to maintain constant visual on that aircraft, but if they're landing runway 1 is not a factor because I will be parallel with that traffic.
Okay, and we're going to get back to that a little bit later as well, so thank you. Mr. Dressler, would you like to speak to it, please?
I think here it is a reflexive comment because experienced operators are well aware of the traffic flow in and out of the airport. And I think it was encouraged by DCA Tower in our conversations last year to understand fully visual separation, and it does relieve the controller of some percentage of responsibility that they can then free up and put their attention elsewhere. Many of our members do not accept visual separation, certainly not pilot applied, where my understanding is both pilots need to accept. These would be the law enforcement members who don't have a predictable way to continue visual tracking of aircraft while they're in orbits, let's say, and they don't know where those orbits will end up going. So we do accept it when possible. We do accept it reflexively, but we do have plenty of operators who do not accept it.
So I'm going to remain with you. Have you experienced concern while operating here in the DCA airspace? Have you experienced concern with the application of visual separation, whether pilot applied or tower applied, just from your point of view within this airspace? And do the concerns lie more with one entity or the other? Like, is there one particular unit or a group of units or a type or a facility? Is there anything, or is it just all over the map?
Generally speaking, I think it works very well.
Okay.
It has enormous challenges in a night environment. Whether on goggles or off goggles, it's very simple to understand whether north ops or south ops are being used at DCA. It is, I mentioned yesterday, it's still remarkably hard to identify aircraft when you are flying, whether it's the background or a whole host of reasons. It can be very challenging, I think, as every pilot would say. We use traffic alerts and traffic monitoring systems in our helicopters, all the DC operators, the civilian and law enforcement side, and it is exceptionally challenging when you have particular units that don't broadcast using ADSB. Our systems are not TCAS 2, so we do not take in Mode S or Mode C transponders. We rely upon ADSB. And when you cannot see an aircraft and you've been asked if you can identify traffic and you can't see it, and in your visual scan and then scan your instruments and still can't find the aircraft, it can be very challenging.
So in your experience flying in the airspace here, do you feel more or less comfortable when you hear air traffic control or a pilot request visual separation and an air traffic controller approve that, and it could impact you? Do you get a feeling of comfort, discomfort? How does it affect you?
If I know right away the other operators. There are really only a dozen helicopter operators in this area, and know most of them either personally or by voice. I also know all the tower controllers by voice, and they know all of our voices. We have pilots who've been here and members of our group at 38 years, 28 years. I have several pilots at 28 years. My first trip to the DCA tower, one of the controllers who'd been there forever could imitate some of our voices to a T. She could mimic our voices, and we love them. So when I know the tower by voice, and I know the unit, the particular aircraft that on the other end is accepting visual separation from me, I think it works very, very well, and I have extreme confidence in it.
Is there any unit that when you hear it makes you feel uncomfortable?
Sadly, yes. And as I said yesterday, I don't like saying this. I'll say it again on the record. I'm a former Army aviator, and I'm a retired Air Force officer. And I don't like saying that first heli of the USAF from Andrews, and I don't like saying that 12th Aviation Battalion gives us all pause in the community. And I'm speaking for my group there. We are all very uncomfortable when those two units are operating.
Okay. Mr. Van Vechten, do you request visual separation often when operating in the Class B airspace here?
Yes, I did.
And were you, when you have agreed to provide visual separation, pilot applied, can you explain to me as a helicopter operator, what does that mean to you? What are you taking on, and how do you perform the taskings to ensure that? Like, could you just kind of step me through how that works inside the cockpit?
Sure. When a air traffic control calls on an aircraft, hey, Pat 17, do you have the aircraft 11 o'clock, 1 mile, 2,000 feet? I'll say traffic in sight requests visual separation. They'll say visual separation approved, and then I'll continue on route. So I'll maintain the visual separation, keeping myself clear of that aircraft, ensuring that we're not on converging paths.
Okay. You mentioned earlier, you were talking about it was very easy for you, especially under night vision goggles at night, to be able to acquire traffic inbound on runway 1 final and be able to request visual separation right away because you see them, you know where that's at, and they're going. So my question would be, and we've seen in the video in the opening presentation that Mr. Banning showed, when they have aircraft lined up on final out there, there's 6, 7 landing lights out there in that same general direction. We heard that when under NVGs, depth perception is compromised or could be compromised. And I'm trying to understand, how do you know which one to then maintain from the rest of the time? You've got 7.5 miles to fly. Do you literally keep track of the one aircraft? And do you, I'm just kind of curious how that plays out from there.
Sure. DCA Tower, in my experience, has been some of the best controllers I've worked with in my career. They're very good at pointing out the aircraft. And when I'm at Chain Bridge, I'm at 1,300 feet, so it's easy to silhouette the aircraft lined up for runway 1 against the dark sky. Okay. Like I said, as I descend into the tidal basin, it is more difficult, but as they're calling out that traffic, I can maintain separation with them both mainly laterally because they're going to runway 1.
Okay. And Mr. Dressler, in your experience operating the Class B airspace, would you say that visual separation is conservatively relied upon, or would you say that it is over-relied upon, or do you have no opinion?
I think it's a good balance here, actually.
Okay.
We try very hard to collaborate with our industry partners, including the airlines and including our controllers. And if this is the whole purpose of our meetings last year, was to hear concerns and how we can adapt our operations. We have enormous agility in our ability to do that on the civilian and law enforcement side. So if we hear a concern, last year a discussion came up about missed approaches and altitudes in the helicopter working group held at DC Tower, and we can discuss those things openly and come up with a way to mitigate risk. I think it's a very healthy balance here for those who are experienced enough with the DC traffic and the DC route structure.
Okay. And
Can I chime in 1 second again? Mr. Van Vechten over here.
Yes.
We are also a dual pilot aircraft with at least one crew chief on board. So while one pilot is flying the aircraft, the other pilot is maintaining airspace surveillance and dealing with the radios. In this particular instance, there is no radio changes, so the pilot not in the controls will be scanning for traffic. So it's much easier for us to maintain visual separation because we're a dual pilot aircraft.
do you still do verbal call-outs during that? Like, if the other person is performing those duties of maintaining visual for you, is there an expectation of kind of verbal call-outs back and forth, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think I heard that in the earlier audio of this flight back when they were up north of Cabin John. So, Mr. Dressler, how far away for you as an operator, because you have a different mission in the military now, what you're doing today, for you, how far away are you comfortable providing pilot-applied visual separation at night under the same conditions that would have existed basically on the night of the accident, which was basically a clear night with, it was just generally a clear night with moderate to busier traffic. How far away?
Typically at night, with landing lights on commercial jet traffic, you can see them stacked up all the way south in the Potomac. So I would feel very comfortable with that. And the conversation is usually, as Mr. Van Vechten said, it's usually a conversation with Tower about the number of aircraft. I would handle visual separation in miles plus without a problem.
Okay. And Mr. Van Vechten, back to you in that same thread with picking them up on the north operation. If you knew that the aircraft called to you was a runway 33 arrival, how does that change things for the ability to keep visual if you were flying essentially the same basic route they were flying that day?
That would be much more difficult because runway 33, as I descend, it would be challenging to pick up that aircraft on the left turn as it's coming in, especially when I get down below 200 feet by Memorial Bridge.
Okay. All right, very well. We're going to shift to a little bit different area here. We're going to start talking about staffing and resource management at the Airport Traffic Control Tower. Mr. Allen, on site immediately after the accident, the overall facility staffing was being categorized as adequately staffed, meaning you had your number on board versus your number authorized under the staffing workbook was a close number. I think it was 28 on board or 26 on board and 30. Actually, it was 28 authorized at that time. Give me the numbers.
We were authorized 28 at that time.
Yeah, so you were authorized 28. And how many did you have on board? Do you remember, CPCs? It's okay if you don't. We have it in the document. These numbers changed a number of times over the course of the investigation.
They've changed.
But nonetheless, at that time, they were a very close number. However, that said, every person we spoke with cited staffing as a significant concern. And there was and basically stated there was a lot more to staffing than authorized versus on board. Okay, so, and I think even you were explaining this to us. So can you help us understand the staffing concerns that you had at the time and tell us why, if your authorized was 28 and your on board was 26, why did you feel that staffing was an issue? Could you explain to us how that plays out?
Yeah, there's many factors, variables that go into staffing. So we were authorized 28, and we had a number relatively close to that. I can't recall the exact number. But with that, folks can be on different types of leave, whether it's military leave. There could be release dates coming up, so we know that we have a person and we're going to lose that person. There is paid parental leave available as a benefit. And when you're looking at the staffing, you can kind of look into the future and see if, this person counts towards the CPC number, but there are extra variables where they're part of the whole number, but yet they're unable to be in the operation on the daily schedule.
Okay. And in the most recent numbers we've received from the FAA for DCA, if I'm not mistaken, they're showing the authorized at 30. And Mr. Fuller, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm sure you're on top of these. So the authorized is 30, and the onboard is, I want to say 26. Is that right? Mr. Fuller. The problem that we see is that when we look at all those, they have 19 operational, which means that they have 19 that can actually plug in, work a position, and staff the schedule. How many shifts do you have to fill in a day, Mr. Allen, at DCA?
Including supervisors and TMU, you would want 9 people in the morning, 9 on the evening shift, and then you would have 2 for the mid. So that's a total of 20.
Yes, and I believe that in the actual documents that were given, just the CPC staffing was 16 shifts in a day. And so if you have 19 operational controllers and you're filling 16 shifts in a day, now we can start to see why probably controllers are saying staffing is a problem, right? Is that accurate? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
That would be accurate.
Okay. All right, thank you. And Mr. Fuller, having a much larger view of the overall staffing picture for air traffic organization as a whole, how would you categorize the staffing at DCA as compared to other like-type facilities across the NAS? Is it similar and not much different, or is there a big variance? What do you see?
The staffing at DCA for a level 9 tower is commensurate with other facilities of like size.
Okay. Mr. Allen, shifting away from the staffing and onto resource management, which for everybody here, resource management, when we speak to that, we're talking about the actual use of available resources to staff the required positions over the course of a shift or day. And from your perspective, was the tower adequately staffed from a resource management standpoint on the night of the event?
On the night of the event, it was.
Okay. The OS had been, we noted in looking at the logs and stuff that the OS had been on position since about 1823 local that evening. And at the time of the event, that put him on position for about 186 minutes, or just over 3 hours. Is this routine for an OS staffing, or is there any concern about an OS being on position for that amount of time?
Can you, for
Operations
people,
supervisor, I apologize. I tried to get them all. Operations supervisor.
For the operations supervisor, they are managing the shift, and they can, like we had described earlier, they could put a controller in charge and take breaks as they needed in order to be an effective supervisor and provide oversight.
So you would have categorized that as normal, or not out of the ordinary?
It was not out of the ordinary.
Okay. At the time of the accident, the helicopter and local control positions were combined, and they had been since 1540 local that day. And they had only been decombined for a total of about an hour and 20 minutes on that entire day. In your SOP, in the standard operating procedures, it states that helicopter control should normally be decombined between the hours of 10 o'clock a.m. and 21:30 p.m., Monday through Friday. It further stated that the operations supervisor or controller in charge has the discretion to combine or decombine helicopter and local control positions after considering a list of about 7 items that are listed in your SOP. One of the factors to consider in that is helicopter traffic volume within the DCA Class B airspace. Is there a particular threshold of helicopter traffic volume that would warrant combining or decombining the positions or combining the positions, or is that completely up to the discretion of the supervisor? How does that work?
For helicopter volume, it is subjective to the person providing the services. So I may be able to control 5 helicopters and it be no volume for me, and maybe you could only manage 2, or vice versa, whatever that may be. So it's subjective to each controller as to what volume is to them.
Okay. And when you read the SOP, your interpretation of its current writing of most, let me rephrase it again, should normally be decombined through those hours. How much liberty do you expect an operations supervisor to take with that? And what I mean is, are there particular things that you expect? Yes, I expect them to do it for training, or if it's required and they meet all the other guidelines. I guess I'm just struggling a little bit. let me ask a different way. Did an hour and 20 minutes for the full day seem off to you? That would you expect that helicopters would have been staffed more on that over an entire day?
No, there's many variables that go into making those decisions.
Okay, such as?
The list that's referenced in the standard operating procedure throughout the day. So we just previously discussed staffing. So if staffing, if folks are out sick or whatever may be that we don't have the appropriate staffing that day, we may have to prioritize and adjust our resources in another direction. There could be weather, multiple factors can occur at any time, and we have to adjust our priorities in order to continue to provide a safe and efficient operation.
Okay. And we read in the SOP, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe it states in there that when combining the positions, the operations supervisor or controller in charge will annotate this in the facility log with the time and reason when helicopters is combined during the normal helicopter hours. Was that still the policy on that day?
I don't believe it was on that day. It had been, that language had been removed sometime before.
Okay. All right. I might be mixing up two versions there, and we'll check to be sure. How do the local control and helicopter positions coordinate when they're decombined, when they are separate?
When they're decombined, they can coordinate utilizing point-out feature and scratch pad entries on the radar displays that they have, or verbal coordination.
Okay. Does a facility track how often positions are combined and decombined as a metric within the facility?
We have the ability to, and we do review staffing and resources.
Okay. Do you recall, I think that,
Good morning, everybody. Just wanted to check in here at just after 10 a.m. on a Thursday morning. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Jane Monreal. We are listening into live the NTSB hearing day number 2 involving that mid-air collision just outside of Ronald Reagan Airport, outside of in D.C. that happened in January. So this is the second day out of 3, and you can hear a lot of the testimony that's taking place and a lot of questions being asked. Also, we're staying weather aware. Well, we're looking forward to being weather aware tomorrow. Just giving you a heads up on the potential of flash flooding because of these pop-up storms and these conditions that are moving in really quickly, but some areas might be feeling the impacts of any flash flood potential. So we always check in with our meteorologist, and of course, Brad Panovich at 6:30 is going to give you more on the complete weather picture as we cover you throughout the day here on WCNC Charlotte. And RNC Chair Michael Whatley expected to run for Senate and make his formal announcement later this afternoon out of Gastonia. Our Julie Kay is going to an event there and will monitor things as well. You saw from some of the live pictures that SpaceX launch, the Crew 11 is going to head up to the International Space Station. Their launch is scheduled for 12:09 this afternoon, so we're just looking in at some live images at Cape Canaveral there in Florida and counting down as the astronauts were also on board getting strapped. We're also looking forward. We have learned that once they close that launch door, it's pretty much all systems a go. And so that should be closing at 10:15. But you can see there the astronauts are strapped into their seats. It looks
cozy.
like they're.
I'd take a nap.
It looks like they're napping.
It does look like they're napping. I mean, what do? You don't,
For
they don't
2
launch
hours.
For 2 hours, yeah. I'm gonna take it a quick snooze.
Yeah, they've been waiting there for a while. So we have just been taking a peek every now and then as they do their pre-launch coverage. But we'll get you back out to some live hearings and discussions back in D.C. The National Transportation Safety Board meeting continuing on this day 2 into the deadly January 29th midair collision. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
When the positions are combined, specifically local and helicopters positions, when they are combined, how does the operation change in the tower?
The operation changes in that the local controller with the combined position is now developing the whole plan for the airspace. They're not just looking at the runways, they are scanning further out and taking in more information and managing the operation accordingly.
So do the roles or even duties change for the other positions, like the assistant local controller?
No, it doesn't change.
No?
No.
Okay. And when positions are combined, in general, you can remember from working as a controller, how does there, if at all, and I know you can't speak for every controller, but in general, so let's just ask you then, how did your scan change? If you combined up positions and you went ahead and took on helicopters, how does your scan change, if at all, when you are combined?
For me personally, it wouldn't have changed.
Okay.
I scanned all traffic and my airspace.
Okay. And kind of run us through what was your general scan? How did you have a method to your scanning, or was it it was ad hoc, or how did you do it?
No, so typically we'll work runways out. So you start at the airport, you're managing your traffic on the runway, preparing the next departure, whatever that may look like, and then you're looking back on final to see, are they maintaining the interval on final? Is there an overtake? What do the speeds look like? Are they too high on the approach? Could they be too low? If you have a helicopter that's integrated with them, how are they doing it? You're issuing traffic, and then you just continue to repeat the cycle. You scan the ASDI, your strips, the CTR, or the radar scope, and then back out the window again. So you get into a rhythm as you continue through while you're working.
Okay. So if going back to the combined positions, if a controller comes in and they are taking over position, they're already combined, so the local and helicopter positions are combined, and the relief comes up and you're passing down the position, the release for the supervisor, if the supervisor comes up while the positions are combined. As the supervisor takes the watch, we know that in order to combine the positions, the supervisor must consider that list of things and assess whether or not they should or should not have it or can or cannot have it combined. Would you expect that a supervisor coming on duty when they're already combined would perform a reassessment of those 7 things? Would they go down the stuff themselves, or would the controller go and say, hey, this, got it, they're combined, see ya, and they would accept that? Or do you expect them to go through the process on their own as well and reassess?
They should reassess. It is now their operation to supervise.
Okay. The local controller had only been certified on local for between, I think, 6 and 8 months. It was May of 2024, so the end of May 2024, actually, on the 22nd. At DC Airport Traffic Control Tower, considering the complexity of traffic that exists there, as we've been talking about quite lengthy, what would you consider the average seasoning time for a new cert? So seasoning time, just so everybody knows what I'm talking about, is it's kind of a term used that when a person is first qualified, there's a time period in which they settle into that new certification and kind of season on the position, get used to working it on their own without somebody prompting them and stuff. They are certified, but we're a little, I think in general, there's a little bit of caution exercise during the early phases. So do you feel there is kind of, for the operation here and what they are getting certified on, is there any kind of rough seasoning time you look for, or is it completely controller dependent?
It would be controller dependent.
Okay. Without quoting, I'm not looking for quotes directly out of the SOP, Mr. Allen, what are the primary duties and responsibilities of the assistant local controller?
The assistant local controller responsibilities include setting the sequence for departures and managing the departure bay. They are to coordinate with the adjacent facilities, coordinate with TMU and the supervisor, manage I already covered that. Manage the flow of traffic. There are an extra set of eyes that are scanning the radar screen, looking out the windows, checking the runways, coordinating with it internally to the tower, to the other positions, to name a few.
Okay. So on the night of the event, while the ALC was working, there were a couple times of conflict alert going off. There were, even before, prior to this, to the accident. In interviews, we didn't glean that there was a lot of interaction between the two of them. That the assistant load controller, do you feel that, would you have expected more engagement from the assistant local controller in this, as because you reviewed the events afterwards, and I know you can only assess things by reviewing the replays and talking to the controllers and finding out what went on. You weren't present or physically there. But would you have expected more engagement from the assistant load controller in this situation?
I did not review their interview that they had. I had not interviewed them. I don't know their level.
Oh, okay. I apologize. I thought you were actually part of like the covered event review and stuff where you talked to the controllers.
No, I did not interview them, so I have no.
Very good. I apologize. Well, let me ask you this then. So the assistant local controller is actually billeted there as a traffic management coordinator, correct?
Correct.
So as a traffic management coordinator, that person's primary duties is what?
To manage the flow of traffic out of the facility and into the facility, coordinating with the adjacent.
Do they staff the control positions at a equal level or a lesser level in general than the rest of the controllers on there?
They have a proficiency requirement that they need to meet each month.
Okay, so what's their minimum requirement for ALC and local control from the last you can recall?
1 hour minimum.
1 hour minimum. And would you say that it is common for them to get low side numbers of proficiency because they're doing TMC most of the time?
Compared to somebody that is just a controller,
sure,
their time on position, control positions, is lower due to their other duties.
Okay. Sorry, I did another one. Traffic management coordinator. I thought I said it out, though, but so... All right. So now I lost my train of thought. So my concern there is, so you have an individual, would you expect an operations supervisor or a controller in charge, when they are staffing positions, determining whether to leave something combined based on traffic load, whatever it is they got, everything, would that be something that would be considered like, well, this person isn't probably as proficient as others because they don't do as much time on this position. They generally get their proficiency, but most of the time they're doing traffic management coordinator duties as assigned. Is that a consideration?
A consideration for what?
For like combining positions. Like, well, I would combine positions, but I've got so-and-so on assistant load control, and I need to make sure that everybody's engaged in where they're at, so I don't want to combine the positions yet. I mean, is that a consideration?
Yeah, you would consider.
Okay. And on the night of the event, on the week of the event, we learned that the assistant load controller in this case had just returned from a vacation. They were on a vacation for a little over a week, as I recall, and they were. This was their first shift back to work. Is that something that should be considered by a SUP, or that you would expect to be considered by the SUP? That, hey, they've been out of the operation for a week and they got to jump back in and get used to it real quick. Let's do whatever. I mean, would you kind of slowly in, or is it just kind of you're back to work, go to work?
It would be the person is certified on those positions, and returning back from work, getting on ALC would be, or assistant local control, would be a position where they're not actively working a control position. So it would be a way to, get back into the swing of working.
So in this
again.
case, it would be an appropriate measure to ease them back in
Correct.
your opinion. Okay, good. And overall, in general, did the operations supervisor meet your expectations as the operations manager on the night of the accident?
Repeat the question again.
On the night of the accident, did the operations supervisor meet your expectations as the operations manager during that night while he was on shift at the time of the accident? So I'm asking, considering all the things that person is responsible for, the combining of positions, the traffic management or the monitoring of traffic complexity, density, how much traffic was going on, getting people in and out, training, all these things, was he meeting the expectations that you have for the operations supervisor at that time?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's all I have for right now, and I'm going to pass it along to Sarah.
Thank you, Brian. Good morning.
Hey, real quick here at 10:15, it looks like the hatch to the SpaceX Crew 11 ship has been shut down, so we understand that that is always a good sign for an on-time launch at 12:09. As we take a live look here at live images from Cape Canaveral, Florida, hours away from that 12:09 launch. We do have a North Carolina connection that we're learning. Crew 11 Commander Zena Cardman is from North Carolina, a Virginia native, but holding her master's degree in marine sciences from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. So representing the Tar Heel State there on the SpaceX launch Crew 11 headed to the International Space Station later today. Looking at some of the images there before they get into their suits. And we will be constantly taking a peek here and actually bring you back to a 3-box shot as we continue to listen live on that NTSB hearing day number 2 out of Washington, D.C.
Your entire career. If you're newly certified, obviously you're not going to be as proficient no matter how many hours you get that month. And so it's different. There's no real way to capture that.
Okay, thanks. And so in this instance, the person that was working assistant local control, do you know, are you familiar with what their primary duty was as assigned to DCA Tower by chance?
Yes.
Can you explain to us what were her, what were their duties as an ALC, and what would be their proficiency requirements?
So again, as previously stated, an assistant local control is almost exactly like it sounds. It's like a left seat in an aircraft. They're the assistant, the local controller, with identifying traffic, coordinating handoffs, any of the duties that would primarily fall to the local control, they are there to assist with. They're not the primary person speaking the aircraft, but if they identify a conflict, it's pointing them out to the local control. Hey, watch those two. Requesting control for something, let me coordinate a heading, any of those kind of activities to assist the local control in maintaining their duties. Again, I believe as Mr. Allen spoke, you're required to get about an hour of that a month. I don't know exactly how many hours this particular controller got. Again, they had just returned from leave, but it's my understanding they had been certified at this facility for multiple years, and it wouldn't be unexpected for them to come back and be able to handle assistant local control.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Allen, are you aware, or do you know how much time had the local controller worked the helicopter position and the local control positions combined during the training and qualifications? Is there a minimum expectation as part of that qualification that they would be able to train on it, combine a certain amount of hours before certification?
I'm not aware of his training records. I don't have
Okay.
the hours off the Dash 25s in
Okay,
front of me.
not a problem. And so overall, for the facility, do you guys have a minimum requirement of having that controller in training show that when they're training on both combined, is there a minimum, or how do they know when they're ready to take on the responsibility of being able to handle both at the same time?
So in the process, there's a training team associated with each person in training, consisting of a supervisor and certified controllers. With that, there are routine and regular training team meetings, performance assessments, and when the training team would have a consensus that they're able to begin training on more complex or more volume in order to continue progressing in training, then that would be a discussion and occur at that time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Jarvis, you were speaking to us earlier about your role with the quality, the Eastern Service Quality Control Group, and when you were assigned to DCA. Can you please add any of your observations that you had while you were there on the health of the DCA training?
Yes, good morning. And I do want to make it clear that I'm here on behalf of myself, not on behalf of my employer, Leidos. The health of the facility, as far as the certified professional controllers, that has always been on the lower number of staffing, not necessarily healthy. It's cost of living is high there, hard to attract those folks. The administrative staff was my biggest concern. I had been asked to look into see do they need a second operations manager, and I took a quick look, and the answer was yes, they do. No action was ever taken on that. They had a couple support staff folks at one point, and one I think retired, another one was we'll say relocated, and then they went for approximately 3 years. Those duties fell to the operations manager and a support manager, as well as the air traffic manager, and that was a concern of mine. I brought that to many attention, every opportunity I had, and at one point I was told to quit bringing it up.
Mr. Jarvis, do you feel that that impacted the training program at DCA?
Absolutely. There was not enough folks to manage the training that needed to take place. Anytime a training package needed to be prepared, a support manager they had to do all that work with the help sometimes of the operations manager. And not only would they put it together, they'd have to brief it, and then they'd have to document that the training occurred. And it was a large tasking that took place, and there was also some simulation training that was required annually that the facility didn't have the resources, they didn't have the equipment at one point to do that, and I'll just kind of leave it at that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And I think we're going to come back to some of those reasons why in a little bit. But for right now, can you let me know, and if you can, future?
From my perspective, the operations managers needs to manage and coach the operations supervisors. And at this particular facility, they're young. The workforce is very young. They need a lot of attention. And that's a heavy workload on that operations manager. Now, aside from that, the other duties of that operations manager is to manage these very important people movements around the region. Any flybys at Arlington, that takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time, and especially in many instances, you may have several in one day. And so we'll just say with that comes, that needs to be briefed to the workforce. That's a lot of work, and to do all that coordination, and the Pentagon's right next door to the airport. They have a lot of needs and wants as well. All this communication coordination distracts from the ability to coach the younger supervisors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Allen, I would like to ask you, other than the other metropolitan Washington, D.C. airports, can you think of any other facility in the country that would have the unique challenges that DCA has with being located exactly where it is?
There's none that I'm aware of.
Okay. Can you explain to us some of the complexities that you faced as an operations manager with kind of expand on what Mr. Jarvis said, and also keeping in mind that how many hours did you spend a day typically in the tower overseeing the management?
Yeah, so the operation is the number one priority. I would oversee daily the operations supervisors as well as the control staff working either the day or the evening shift. There are many challenges throughout a day, whether it's a staffing challenge, whether there's an airport construction project that needs to happen, or there's an issue with gates or the airlines, weather, priority movements, flybys. There's multiple items occur each day that you have to assist and manage. In addition to that, you're trying to meet with your supervisors, provide coaching, provide a direction in how we're going to run this operation and move forward. And then with that, you're also looking at short-term goals, long-term goals, whether there are, during my time, we had a large runway rehabilitation project. It occurred over 2 years, and MWA, the Metropolitan Washington Airport Authority, rehabbed all of the runways. So that was a project that continued, and we would have to work through daily while it was going on, the long-term goals of it, what are the impacts of it, how we have to adjust the operation and really be dynamic. So as the operations manager, there's not just, I don't think there's, I'm sure there's in HR, there's a list of duties and responsibilities, but being at DCA and the various lines of business and entities that you touch, it's more than just those duties. It's beyond that. There's just a lot going on with DCA.
Would it be fair to say that those responsibilities and unique challenges also flow down to an operations supervisor, traffic management coordinator, and individual controllers?
Yeah, 100%.
How do you...
All right, coming up on 10:30 here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Jane Monreal. Just wanted to check in real quick as we are still listening in live at that NTSB hearing day number 2 as they investigate and really come up with some of those details from the midair crash that happened outside of DCA, killing 67 people. Also, that launch, it looks like it is T-141, Cape Canaveral, Florida. So we will continue to bring you those pictures and images from Cape Canaveral as the launch is scheduled for 12:09. Looks like all systems a go so far. So a good morning here at 10:30 on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
Look at the hot spots, common crossing points, and just get a real feel of how the airfield operates. Whenever a trainee gets to local helicopter and assistant local control, we're fortunate enough that we coordinate with the U.S. Coast Guard that is based at DCA, and we coordinate FAM flights for them so they can get up and fly the helicopter routes, see the perspective from the helicopter users, and how that integrates into the entire system. In addition to that, even the folks that are certified, like our traffic management folks, whenever we are approaching winter for winter weather and de-icing, we do a good job. I coordinate with Mandy, and we have the folks go out and meet their counterparts at Washington Center or Potomac and make that connection and have those discussions. And then prior to coming into the summertime, whenever we have the significant lines of weather that move through, we conduct briefings and, again, have the controllers, the traffic management specialists, meet with their counterparts at the adjacent facilities to discuss those challenges, to, make those connections, and to make the operation that much better.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. I appreciate it. I'm going to pass along to my colleague, Dr. Wilson.
Dr. Wilson, if you could pause for a second, just to let everyone know, we do have working bathrooms for everyone up here. Now we've moved on to the air conditioning. So, I do want to say I tried to tell you all that you could wear polo shirts with logo gear, but you didn't listen. I knew the Army wouldn't, but I mean that respectfully. If the witnesses, if you want to take your jackets off, it's hot. I get it. It's fine. Don't feel like you have to be so formal. Go ahead, Dr. Wilson.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to follow up on some of the training questions that we've been talking about. The assistant local control position, is that always staffed, Mr. Allen?
Yes, in accordance with the point 3 and the DCA SOP.
Okay. And so you mentioned that their purpose, they coordinate with the local controller. Is there specific training on how to coordinate?
The on-the-job training, I mean, they sit right next to each other.
Okay. Do they receive any sort of classroom training on, teamwork or how to communicate, the basics of that, so that when they get to on-the-job training, they can apply what they've learned?
It's covered in classroom training on how to coordinate with the adjacent facilities, and within the tower, everyone can just talk freely. So.
And in simulator, there are some simulations that you do as well, correct?
Correct.
Is the assistant local control and local controller paired up in those simulations as well?
We don't simulate for assistant local control.
Okay. Do the controllers receive training on how to manage their workload?
We go through, in the simulation training, we go through various percentages and build up so they can gauge how traffic volume and complexities increase. And then as they do the actual on-the-job training on the position, they begin at lower hours of volume and complexity and then build off of that. So the training team, like I stated, there's a training team associated with them. They meet routinely, they have discussions, and they know where the person in training is at, what they need to work on as they continue to work up to a certified controller.
And if a controller became overwhelmed on shift, the workload just got beyond what they were comfortable with, what would they do?
If there was too much workload, they should notify the supervisor or controller in charge, and we can recall additional staff back that are on break or perhaps other duties to come and relieve them.
Is there a simulated scenario where you push a controller to need to ask for that relief?
Not that I'm aware of.
Are the supervisors trained to recognize if one of their controllers is becoming overwhelmed?
We have discussions about it.
It's not a formal training or a part of their training?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
All right, you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertivant. Right there, you're watching live as the NTSB hearings continue. This is day 2 of the hearings, and this is the NTSB and other officials trying to get answers on what exactly happened in that deadly mid-air collision in D.C. nearly 6 months ago. All right, so hey, I'm not Jane. I'm filling in for Jane.
You're
Jane.
not.
I'm not. It's not Jane. And this is not a replay from yesterday. She had to step out, so I'm filling in for a little bit. All right, let's talk about the school year. School year is coming up. Kids in South Carolina, at least, go back in days. The countdown is on with the new school year.
Yeah.
A new superintendent for York School District 1.
Correct.
Again, I want to read what's on our web article. It says, after 30 days on the job, York School District 1's new superintendent is settling into a role he describes as, quote, drinking from a fire hydrant as the district prepares for rapid growth and a new school year. The superintendent, Heath Branham, spoke with our very own Lisa Washington in a sit-down one-on-one. Let's take a listen into that interview.
Yes, officially. Yeah, so I did some contract work in June to work with the previous superintendent for transition purposes, which was really helpful. But I've had an incredible first month meeting the people that make this district come to life, kids, families, leaders, both inside of the district office, but also our communities, our school principals, from Rotary to Chamber to today I have an appointment with the city manager. So just really getting to know the lay of the land. And I joked with some other new superintendents in York County a couple of days ago. They said, it's been like drinking from a fire hose. And I'm like, no, it's drinking from a fire hydrant. And so with school starting so early, I mean, we start school this coming Monday on August 4th, and teachers came back this week. So there's just been a lot of excitement there, a lot of hope and optimism about what this year is going to bring.
Is being the superintendent is the top position.
Mm-hmm.
Is it what you expected?
Well, it is a position, but I don't see it as a nameplate or an office or a chair. I see it as impact. I see it as someone who can help connect the dots for the great things that are already happening here, addressing any challenges that we have head on, but I also see it as boots on the ground. So yes, I have an office, I have a nice chair in my office, but to me, the best leadership is with people, in the trenches with people. And so that's why I've spent so much time outside of this building, getting to know people, getting to know their story, because everyone has a story, and listening to what has been uniquely tradition here, that are great traditions for students and families, but then also looking at opportunities for areas of challenge. This area is starting to grow. We're in Western York County, and so it's the largest geographic school district in York County. About 60% of the land population or land size is here on this side of the western part of York County. And so we're starting to see growth. And so managing that growth, preparing for that growth. In fact, the district just passed a bond referendum this past fall. The community passed that. And so we'll be building a new middle school. That's in the works now. And then updating the Early Childhood Center, the Pinckney Street Center, as well as our York One Academy, our alternative school. And so there's a lot going on that happened before I got here, and so leaning into and on the people that are already here doing amazing things. That's what good leaders do. They surround themselves with people who are experts and who have experience. And my job, I see my job as removing barriers and helping people connect the dots to communicate it well, both internally and externally. So it's, we're in the people business. We're in the business of people. And the superintendent's job is to make sure we cast a vision, and we have a mission and a vision, and here's where we're going, here's where we are,
right,
and how are we going to get there. And at the end of the day, all of that filters down to the student in the classroom. So all the positions here at the district office, all the partnerships we have in the community, all of that comes together to serve students, which in turn serves families.
And there are about, I think, 5,000?
Just over 5,000
kids.
and growing.
Yeah. I was going to say, so let's talk about that growth, because in Charlotte Metro, what we're finding in many of the districts is the rapid amount of growth. This area, this region of the country is really just exploding. How is that one of your biggest challenges, the growth?
For sure, because the district hasn't experienced a lot of population growth previously, but because it has the largest land availability, many of that still is farms and agricultural means. In fact, we just had groundbreaking last month on an ag center that will serve all of York County and beyond. We have a huge technology center here, and organizations like the Future Farmers of America. We have a very large percentage of kids that are invested in that, and their families are invested in that. So we want to make certain that we preserve what has been great about this community, but also embrace the change that's coming without sacrificing who we are as a community. And so for sure, growth is a challenge. It's a challenge in terms of school finance and running and operating schools. As I said before, we passed a bond referendum of $90 million, which we are so appreciative of our public and our community. But then the operating cost to bring in teachers and principals and all the other people that support our schools, that will continue to be a challenge. And if you drive around the city of York and just outside of York, you will see new neighborhoods popping up everywhere. And so we've got to manage that growth and not lose our academic achievement and innovate as much as possible without losing sight of why we're here, and that's students.
And as you said, I mean, the students are the most important aspect
That's right.
of all of this. You mentioned a new middle school, part of the referendum, you'll get the new school. I don't know how many stories we've done about the teacher shortage. Talk about attracting teachers and then retaining them.
Yeah, so when I talk about recruitment and retaining teachers, it's twofold. First off, we're blessed. We're fully staffed right now, which is a fantastic, I think, statement about the quality of the school district and people taking care of teachers and supporting them, our school board, to local community partners, to our principals, taking care of who's here. And so I think what gets left out of the conversation sometimes is working conditions. How do I feel about where I work? Am I supported? Am I developed? Am I given the tools I need to do my job? That's important. And sometimes we forget about the working conditions, about how people feel when they drive to work each day and when they leave each day. Do the teachers and our support staff, our bus drivers, all those, do they feel supported in what they're doing, and that they have the tools? That's a big part of the equation. The other is that we have to be compensating in a way that makes us attractive as a school district. And so that goes back to the whole financial piece of how do we recruit and retain. We want to make certain that we're compensating teachers for their value and what they're worth and what they're doing. But simultaneously, and it's not an or proposition, it's working conditions and how I feel about where I work, and am I an important part? Do I make a daily impact? And I need to be compensated well. So when we look at recruitment and retention, we look at are we a place where people can thrive and be creative and innovative and make an impact, make a difference? Because most teachers get in the profession because they want to make a difference. They want to make an impact on kids' lives. The truth is, teachers impact other teachers and employees and others. And so the climate and culture of our schools is critically important. And so we have to make certain that it is psychologically safe, that it's a place I want to work, where I can have opportunity to grow. We want to build capacity in our teachers, so you're not just confined to a classroom with a set of 22 kids. You're able to impact many classrooms, many grade levels, many content areas. So we like to look at recruitment retention as a twofold approach of how do I feel about our work, and do I feel honored and valued, and does my voice matter, and I'm compensated well for my hard work.
As the superintendent, you sort of set the tone, you illustrate the vision. What's your vision coming in? This is your first year. What are you looking forward to this year, and what's your vision for this district?
Right, so when I talk to people about vision, I would never say it's my vision. I think it has to be our vision. For a vision to truly be realized, it can't be about one person. It has to be about the collective whole. And so this district has a mantra or a vision of being connected as one. Meaning we're connecting all the dots, and all of that is to support students. We do have a theme this year that connects with that vision, and that is to be seen, to be heard, and to belong. Because every staff member wants to be seen and to be heard. Every student wants to be seen and to be heard. Every community member, parent, family member wants to be seen and be heard. And at the end of the day, we all want to belong to the greater organization so that we see our place in the organization. We see where we can have voice. We see where we can be heard, our own individual self, as well as our collective wisdom for the whole organization. So we're focusing really on making sure that every student, every family member is seen, heard, and that they feel a sense of belonging. And that's not just for students and families, that's also for our staff. Because for all of this to work, for us to bring our vision to life of being connected as one and reaching high academic learning levels and making sure that every kid is career, college, and or military prepared. That's our final product, but that starts before kindergarten. And so we've got to connect the dots for the whole pre-K through 12 continuum to make certain that our systems, structures, our curriculum, our learning experiences are aligned so that we don't let any kid, any student be unheard, unseen, or feel like they don't belong to York School District 1.
And you have done some work with turnaround districts and making sure that students sort of stay on track and even schools where they should be. How does your previous experience, how do you think that's going to benefit the York students and families?
Right, well, I've learned so much. I don't consider myself an expert, but I've had a ton of experiences in a lot of different places. Suburban, urban, rural, nationally, internationally. And what I've learned is the business we're in is about people. And we have to cast a vision. We have to say, here's where we're going. Here's our compelling future. And get people to invest in that. Not just commit to it, but to be invested in it. And so to do that, we have to have the systems, structures, and supports in place. We have to be very intentional about those. We have to be very clear about those because being clear is kind. Brene Brown says, being clear is kind. And so I think people, you know, in real estate, they always talk about location, location, location. In organizations like school districts, it's communication, communication, communication. And so making certain that everyone understands their role and responsibilities and that they're supported in those roles and responsibilities, having high expectations, but not just high expectations, they have to have high support. And so we talk all the time about personalizing learning for students. We have to do the same thing for adults. Because when adults are continually learning and their needs are being met, student achievement follows behind. I've yet to see an organization, whether it was a school that was really struggling academically or a school that was high performing, I've yet to find a school or organization where the leaders and the learners and the staff and the teachers in the building aren't learning constantly and kids' achievement didn't follow suit. And so we as adults, we have to model, as superintendent, as our instructional staff, we have to model what that looks like, sounds like, and feel like, and we've got to walk the talk. We can't just tell it, we have to show it and be it.
You mentioned parents or adults learning, so
right.
I want to talk about parents. There's been a big push for parents' rights. How do you incorporate or maybe even balance that in the school district?
Yeah, it's difficult, but one thing we have that is our guiding principles are our state standards. And so we're crystal clear about what those standards are from kindergarten through 12th grade across all content areas. All of our curriculum materials have been vetted by the State Department of Education, have had public hearings around the materials, so all those have been vetted, and then our school district gets to choose from the ones that are vetted and approved by the state board and by the South Carolina Department of Education. So those are the materials we use. And so a lot of that, I won't say is foolproof because you could still have questions about it. But we're highly intentional and aligned about what standards we teach and what depth of knowledge is needed for those standards, whether it's math or reading or English or math or geometry, whatever the case may be. We're very intentional that teachers unpack those standards to say, what exactly am I teaching and how am I going to know students learned? And so in terms of the content, the literature that's used in our schools, it's all been through a rigorous process before it ever gets to our school doors.
Speaking of content, let's talk about AI. That's all everybody's talking about these days.
Yes.
How does AI work in a district when you're, for teachers, at different levels, not just for
Right. So AI can be a beautiful tool, right? It really can. It's kind of like the new frontier. I remember I was alive and well in probably college or post-college when Google and the internet came about and everybody was like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And so I feel like in similar ways, that's where we are, except we're on an accelerated path even from that point. So what we have to do is any innovation and technology that comes along, we have to make certain, because during the school day, what we offer students, we've got to make sure it's safe, secure. We have to follow federal laws, state laws to make certain that, yes, we want our kids to be innovative and creative, but we also have to do it within the confines of public law and what is espoused from the State Department of Education to what we can and can't do. I used an illustration recently when I was asked by a principal about AI and what's its purpose. There are educationally sound, vetted, protected AI systems, program structures for school districts that are great for teachers, that are very efficient, that help you do lesson planning. You can plug in the state standard and it gives you the depth of knowledge. It gives you all these tools. And so we've got to make certain as building level leaders and school district leaders that we are staying in tune with that to make sure that we're on track and that it's vetted and protected. The other part of it is, I was using an illustration or analogy recently. I was like, I might be making a salad in my kitchen, and I'm going to get the best knife I have to cut a tomato and cucumbers and onions, right? And that's a great tool. It has a purpose for that. But that tool can also be used to do harm. And so what we have to do is a double-edged sword, so to speak. Its purpose is to help me be more productive and efficient in creating my salad. But we have to do the same thing with AI. We've got to make certain that we are staying in tune with and have our filters in place, because what we don't want to happen is for students to be able to get into an area or arena on the internet or in some AI tool that identifies who they are. So we have very tight protections around student identity, FERPA, and other things that protect students' rights as well as families. And so it's a fine balance, but our technology department and our principals, we have software in place that's constantly updating literally every day to make sure that we're doing everything in our power humanly to protect students from information they shouldn't have their hands on.
Let's talk about technology, in particular cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts on the cell phone bans.
Right.
The kids have their phones, they have their watches, they want that. Your thoughts on that and what the district rules are?
Yeah, so I mean, it's basically not district rules, it's state rules, and then districts roll it out based on the state statutes and laws. So I was not in this district when it was implemented last year, but from what I can understand from the people I've spoken to, it went really well. Of course, when we've all been used to, even as adults, our smartphones, it's like, we don't even think about it. We just are constantly checking them, right? And it's just like that quick. It's almost like Pavlov's dog, when you hear the bell. So that takes some relearning and undoing, but I've heard many students say in my past district and here that it's really helped them focus and not be so driven by what's coming through social media or cyberbullying or things of that nature. So I think it is going exceedingly well in this district. That doesn't mean it's going perfectly, because you're going to have some students that test the limits. There are consequences in place, and it's a scaffolded approach where it moves from conversation and then minimal consequences, parent conversations, family conversations, student conversations, all the way down to in-school, Saturday school, and out-of-school suspension with a number of breaching rules there.
You are new in this school district, and I imagine a district of 5,000. The superintendent, I imagine, might be pretty accessible. What is your message to the parents and even the students of the district as well, with the transition, with the different change and new superintendent? What's your message to them before this upcoming school year?
Yeah, I truly believe, and I just recorded a message prior to this one with internally that's going out to our families, and I truly believe our best days are ahead of us. There's so much excitement right now. There's so many things coming together. People are passionate about the work we're doing. We're seeing results in student achievement. We're seeing more and more kids. Like, in fact, next door to our room right now, we have a faculty doing Leader in Me, so that we're building student agency and student voice and student leadership within our buildings, and that's a district-wide program that we're doing through Leader in Me, Stephen Covey's Leader in Me program. So there are a lot of really amazing things going on, but the bottom line is we appreciate parents trusting us to serve their kids every day, and we truly value their feedback on what's working well, areas we need to improve. We don't want one parent or one family member to go with questions unanswered. And so we have many people in place to help answer questions, to help solve challenges, all the way to, we want parents and families, if they have a challenge or an issue, to go to the source closest to them. If it's with a teacher, let's meet with the teacher. If it's with a school procedure, let's go to the school and figure out why. If we can figure out the why, sometimes that helps us understand. But the bottom line is, our families, our students are why our organization exists. And so their feedback to us, their trust in us is paramount to everything we do.
Are there any changes or anything that's being implemented or starting with this current school year? Anything that's different?
So not really any major changes in terms of curriculum, instruction, things of that nature. The one change that's a positive change is a new software app for parents called Parent Square. And it's going to help them be, it's a new technology. When technology changes, it's like, oh no, what do we do? But it's pretty intuitive, it's pretty easy to use, and it will allow parents to communicate with us and us with parents very easily. It's a one-stop shop. It allows texting, it allows texting, voice calls, messaging. Parents can say, hey, I have 3 kids and they're in 3 different schools. I don't want to be getting messages all day long, ping, 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 ping. So they can even set it to say, I want an archive. I want to get my messages at night. Now, we hope there aren't any emergencies, but if there's an emergency or we close for a gas leak or inclement weather or a water main break, we're able to communicate with families and override that archive setting so they know right now. But it's a one-stop shop for parents to really help them have accessibility to what we're doing in our classrooms, what their kids are learning, all the way through from the school board all the way down to the grassroots level in the classrooms and the schools. So it's a great tool. It's just anytime there's anything new, we've got to really help people understand it, practice it, promote it until we get 99, 100% participation rate, because that's when you know that our messages are going out, but also, as equally important, messages are coming into us and we can act on them in a quick and efficient manner.
I have 2 kids in CMS, and I have Parent Square.
Yes.
On my phone. It is great, but don't sign up for all the alerts.
Correct.
It will be.
Correct. That's why it's important to do the archive setting.
Yes.
Because if someone needs to get you, they can override that.
Right.
But the archive setting allows families to say, I just want it at night, and come all at once.
Yeah, not the alerts.
That's right.
I made that mistake. I learned the hard.
Yeah.
What is happening to
Right.
my phone?
Right.
So.
It will ping, ping, ping for sure. Absolutely. Thank you.
No, this has been great.
All right, so that was a great interview, one-on-one there with York School District 1's new superintendent, Heath Branham. I love the analogy he used. Quote, it's been like drinking from a fire hydrant after the 30 days on the job.
Yeah, it's
that's a lot to take. It's a tough job.
Yeah, I imagine
It's a tough, you got to think about student safety, teacher retention, preparing teachers for the upcoming school year.
Right.
A lot on your plate, but it sounds like, he has his feet planted on the ground there. So we wish much success for the students and staff within York School District 1 and all over across our area when it comes to back to school. I can't believe school is
here.
Is here.
It is here.
Man, I mean, I kids, I know y'all been enjoying this summer break. I know it.
Yeah.
But it's time to go back to the classroom,
Yeah.
y'all. It's time to go
Sorry,
back to
kids.
and look, it's tax-free weekend in South Carolina, so